External SSDs are getting crazy expensive, and here in 2026, the Samsung T9 is currently going for over $1,100, and this is a super slow, plain Jane external SSD. So if you're gonna spend your hard-earned cash on an SSD in 2026, you need to make sure you're buying the best one. So in this video, we're gonna talk about my two favorite external SSDs, the Oyen U34 Bolt and the Oyen U35 Bolt Plus. I've tested almost every single external SSD out with Mac computers, and these are the only two I would personally buy in 2026. The main difference between these two drives is the U34 Bolt is a 40 gigabit a second drive, and the U35 Bolt Plus is even faster, an 80 gig a second drive. These are the two fastest drives on the market for their speed classes, and they also can last the longest, transferring tons of files without slowing down. So in this video, we're going to talk about these two drives and the difference between them and any other SSD, like anything LaCie offers, OWC, Samsung, as well as SanDisk. Before we go any further, I want to say a huge shout out to Oyen Digital for sending me both of these to test. I bought some of these drives with my own money. Some of these have been sent to me in the past. These are the two that I would personally buy in 2026 if I needed to get an SSD. And I've been using the U34 Bolt for almost 2 years now. The main thing about these drives is they have a larger fast SLC cache than any other SSD I've tested. This is important because if you're moving 100 to 500 gigabytes of files, these drives aren't going to slow down to using the slower speeds that the main SSD storage has on them. They're going to run at the top speeds for a longer period of time, which makes these perfect for all-day video editing, running your whole Mac OS off of, or any other applications or project files you want to use with these. These also never drop connection from a computer, and I've even left these plugged in for days at a time and over the weekend, and they still stay connected to the computer. The Oyen drives don't get talked about enough, but I've tested them against every single other external SSD, and for the money you're spending, these are the top performers. And you can see all my Mac SSD tests at adamtalks.tech/SSDguide, where I show the exact read and write speeds all these drives were getting, so you can see where these stack up. If you want to check out the current best price on these drives, I've got links to buy in the description below. With the U34 Bolt, I was getting about 2,700 to 2,900 megabytes a second on both the read and the write, and whenever I went to do a 100 gigabyte file transfer, it only took 33 seconds on this drive, and when I moved 500 gigabytes to it took 2 minutes and 49 seconds. The next closest drive on the market in the USB 4 class was actually the LaCie USB 4. This one took 4 minutes and 44 seconds for a 500 gigabyte transfer. This drive costs $1,300 right now. The U34 Bolt comes in at about $830 for a 4 terabyte. This one technically is faster on the read and the write speed, but it's not going to actually be able to sustain those speeds for quite as long. The U34 Bolt is compatible with any Mac computer, whether it has Thunderbolt 4, Thunderbolt 5, or even Thunderbolt 3. This runs at the 40 gigabit a second speed. Oyen also just released the faster U35 Bolt Plus, which is an 80 gigabit a second drive, so you're going to need a computer with Thunderbolt 5 to take advantage of those fastest speeds, and currently that's the M4 Pro, the M4 Max, as well as the M5 Pro and the M5 Max chips. On this drive, it took 16.5 seconds to do a 100 gigabyte file transfer, and it took 1 minute and 41 seconds for a 500 gigabyte transfer. With Blackmagic Disk Speed Test, this was hitting about 65 to 6,300 megabytes a second on the read and the write. And I also tested this with AGI Disk Test, which will actually test it over a 500 gigabyte transfer. The speeds on this did go down to about 3,500 megabytes a second on the right side. This is still a faster sustained speed than any of the other drives I've tested. Most of these will go down to about 1,000 megabytes a second on the read and the write after being used for a long period of time. Also, for comparison with this, one of the best external SSDs for Mac is the OWC Envoy Ultra. With this one, I was getting about 5,000 megabytes a second on the read and the write, so quite a bit slower than this one. And it took 4 minutes and 30 seconds for a 500 gigabyte transfer, 35 seconds for the 100 gigabyte transfer. So the U35 Bolt Plus is double the speed of the Envoy Ultra. Let's talk a little bit about durability and the size of these drives. Both of these fall under the MIL 810F standard, which is rated for about 26 drops, which I don't really like this standard because it doesn't give a full ingress protection, or it's just not quite as specific for how high of a drop it can resist. And I think that that's one thing Oyen could improve on a little bit, is the actual durability rating on these. But one of the nice things about this is both of these have a great thermal design. They have a rubber coating on the outside, as well as this little rubber jacket, and then on the inside of it has an aluminum cooling core, which helps dissipate heat and maintain performance stability. There is one other alternative to buying these drives, In 2026, in theory, you could buy an NVMe and you could get an enclosure like the OWC 1M2 40G or the 80G, but even with the top of the line Samsung 9100 Pro drive or a WD Black SN850X, both of these ended up being slower on large file transfers. And with the disk speed tests, it took about 3 minutes and 46 seconds for the 500 gigabyte transfer with the 80 gig enclosure. So the U35 Bolt Plus is still going to destroy that. And these two drives have held better on the pricing than any of the other ones I've seen on the market. The U35 Bolt Plus is currently going for about $900 for a 4 terabyte, and the U34 Bolt Plus is going for $830 for a 4 terabyte. And if you compare that to something like the Samsung T9, that's way slower and over $1,100 right now, this makes this a much better deal. And the drives from LaCie are also getting crazy out of hand for how fast they are. There's really only one downside of these, and it's the fact that they don't actually work with an iPhone, and they will only work with the iPad Pro because it has a Thunderbolt port. All the other iPads aren't able to provide enough power to these. They will work though if you plug them into a powered hub or a docking station in between your phone and your iPad. Also, Oyen does provide a 3-year warranty with both the U34 Bolt and the U35 Bolt Plus, and both of these include data recovery as part of their warranty. So I feel like Oyen is actually pretty generous with the warranty they provide with these. And typically if companies give a warranty over 2 years, that means they really are going to stand behind their product. So if you're looking for an external SSD for your Mac, you may be tempted to just buy the cheapest option on the market, especially because all of these are so expensive. But if you're a casual user, then spending $1,000 on a Samsung T7 Shield or T9 or anything from SanDisk or Crucial is a huge mistake. If you're a professional where time is money, the Oyen U35 Bolt Plus is one of the few drives that's actually worth the premium price tag, because unlike the other Thunderbolt 5 options on the market, this one's not going to slow down on you, and it's not going to get bogged down when you're doing 100 to 500 gigabyte file transfer. And the U34 Bolt is just as reliable as the U35 if you don't have a Thunderbolt 5 computer. So overall, really recommend either of these drives. If you're going to spend your hard-earned cash on an SSD in 2026, these are the two I would recommend. If you're interested in buying either of these or checking out the current best price, I have links to buy in the description below. And for all my SSD tests on all the different Mac computers I've got, check out adamtalks.tech/SSDguide, where you can see all the data that I've captured. Like this video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any upcoming content.